on in the day. So just keep that in mind. Did I start recording? No.
Yes, you did.
You did. All right. So what I'll do is I'm the least important person on this call. I'll make myself very unavailable very soon, because the person who is going to be moderating this talk is Reshmi Ghosh. And is it Reshmi Ghosh?
Yes.
Yeah. So Reshmi is a PhD applied scientist at Microsoft working in intelligence search, recommendation, and security space with generative AI. Prior to joining Microsoft, Reshmi finished her doctorate from Carnegie Mellon University, researching on big data augmentation methods using deep learning to mitigate climate change. She's very happy to be a part of the EB1 community, and she is the person who's going to be introducing Venkatesh and taking your questions and running this show. So over to you, Reshmi.
Thanks, Aditi, and thanks for having me. Okay, I think not to go in circles and just getting straight into it to save Venkatesh some time. I'll introduce Venkatesh. So meet Venkat, an accomplished senior bioinformatics scientist / manager with 11 years of expertise in cancer genomics and healthcare, leading cutting-edge genomics at a major healthcare system. He crafts advanced pipelines on AWS, mentors, and drives impactful research, published in 25 plus high-impact journals with 450 plus citations. He earned his green card through outstanding researcher qualifications and is here to share his story and strategies to expedite your green card journey. Thank you so much, Venkatesh, for joining us in the middle of your family crisis. Over to you. Do you want to get started?
Thank you, Reshmi. I hope you guys can hear me clear.
Yeah.
Perfect. Excellent. So yeah, thank you everyone. Thanks for joining. I'm hoping to talk to some or most of you after this as well. So if you wanted to get in touch, that's great. I'll share my email right here just after this meeting. So about me, like Reshmi said, I did my undergrad back in India from Vellore Institute of Technology and got my BTech in bioinformatics and my master's in bioinformatics from Texas, followed by I worked in a few research institutes, medical universities along the way, starting with Huntsman Cancer Institute in Utah and UT Southwestern in Dallas, and now at Providence Cancer Institute, which is part of the Providence Health System for the past 6.5 years. So I have been doing research for a good 10-11 years now, but I haven't had as many publications or citations until a couple of years ago. So I'm going to talk about how I strategize and position myself to get as many publications as possible and citations as possible, and how engaging with my peers and connections help that path. So my timeline wise, my EB2 was filed just in 2019. I came to the US back in 2010, so it actually took me a literal 9 years to get to the EB2 phase, right? Like employers bouncing me around, or the employers, attorneys bouncing me around, and it's just one, and I switched employers and it just didn't work, right? So, and my only path out of this whole situation is going on to EB1. And when they filed EB2, I've already thought about EB1. I know at least one person who did file their green card in EB1, but I don't know anybody from my field that did this, right? So no community engagement whatsoever. This is like you're talking about 4 or 5 years before, and not a lot of people in LinkedIn helping out, like Aditi or Praneeth, or there are so many people out there helping, right? Like, so and you can get pointers, and you can position yourself based off of just others' experience. So that was not the case with me, right? Like, so I had to talk to an attorney back in 2019. That's Chen law firms, and they weren't very supportive at all. They were, in fact, they said, "Oh, you don't have peer reviews. You only have 100 citations, etc., etc." They actually made me feel my profile isn't worth yet. Like I can't do it now, right? Like, but actually helped. Which actually I took that on a positive note and got more publications in the coming years. But still, I believe today, if I think about it, I think with all the community help and like with the data points of people who applied and stuff, I could have filed a bit earlier. So I filed only in 2023, and I made a move and with my employer helping me with filing only back in mid 2022, right? Like, so just the last year, and they put me in touch with the attorneys, and we went from there. And even then, even back in 2022, I wasn't sure my profile is still there, right? Like it's still outstanding. That's the whole part. Like, are you just another researcher in the US, or is it outstanding in terms of like the things you're doing and the contributions you're making to the field and whatnot? So we just got our green card just this spring, right around May, filed it back in January, got it in like 100 and less than 120 days, right? So that is all um done. So talking about field of expertise, right? My field of expertise is cancer immunology research and bioinformatics. So I'm a bioinformatics scientist. All I do is I never so some of you may be coming from engineering and other areas. So just a little bit of background. I do not do any of the wet lab experiments or the right, like anything with mouse model, anything in the lab. No, I do not do any of that. I am more of a glorified data scientist analyzing biological data, right? Like, or genetic data. That's all it is, right? So I kind of started working with a lot of researchers, right? And that helped me kind of position myself as a bioinformatics and cancer immunologist specialist, right? Like, so most of my research papers uh, talk about cancer immunology and a lot of cancer related work. And also I've developed pipelines to analyze complex genomic data. So I kind of position those are the two main points in my profile, right? Like when I had to write up the summary for the attorneys and how the attorneys wrote the summary for the USCIS folks, this is how they position me, right? And let's see. Yeah, so when I when I applied back in 2019, my experience was right about 7 years. I had actually less than 10 publications and less than 70 citations. My work wasn't cited that much, and I'll get to that in a minute about all of that. So, and I had zero peer reviews. I've never peer reviewed, despite getting some emails to peer review. I just did not have I just did not know how to do it, to be honest, right? Like didn't want to accept it, don't want to do a bad job peer reviewing and accepting or denying a good article or accepting a bad research paper, right? So uh, uh, so that's that. And then I have back in 2019, I have contributed to a state of the art, like a computational pipeline that actually directly impacts patient care. That's the only thing that I did, right? Like that stands out. So in the next 4 years, I kind of like position myself to get as many papers as possible, and like kind of targeted at least 2 or 3 papers every year, right? And mostly in high impact journals, collaborating with people that actually do high impact research, right? So when I applied, so this, I just wanted to list this out. So if you wanted to compare this to your profile, feel free to. So when I applied, I had 10 years of experience, 340 citations, 24 publications, and 26 presentations, which includes conference papers, posters, and guest lecture, keynote speech, etc. I'm going to emphasize on the presentation part for some of you who may not have as many publications. So I'm going to talk in a little bit how important the presentation part is, and then I had 5 peer reviews, everything done in 2022, and actually 2 that was done literally weeks before filing my um uh, petition, right? Like, so I had 3 in 2022, 2 just in early 2023, and I've got 5 support letters, 3 from current and former colleagues and co-authors. So basically, one from my director, one from my immediate boss, and one from my former boss, who happened to be dean in one of the big medical universities in Texas, and one from a NIH scientist, and one from a professor who's an acquaintance, but not, we haven't really published. So I just got his connection, and he was, kind enough to give me a letter. So I had five letters supporting my work, and I'm gonna highlight quickly why one of these letters are really important in just a minute. So I'll quickly go through the criteria that I satisfied, right? So leading a critical role in distinguished organization. So the objective evidence, right, that I've had is I work in a cancer research institute, and I have like, just by myself, designed and built a state-of-the-art pipeline that's being used for adoptive T-cell therapy, which is like CAR T-cell therapy. Some of you might have heard of CAR T-cell therapy for cancer treatment, right? And letters of promotion. I've got promoted 3 times before I in fact filed for EB1, and the and how much impact our cancer center has in curing uh, patients. Like, we've had, like, I mean, we are one of the best centers for cancer immunology research and treatment. So my director, who actually gave one of the letters, is the corresponding author in a paper for which actually James Hallison at MD Anderson Cancer Center got Nobel Prize of Medicine back in 2018, right? So that's the kind of impact the people I work with have. I don't have that kind of impact, obviously, but I mean, it's just I have this connections, right? So basically, I try to engage with all these connections, and they are kind people, and they help me out, right? Like, so my director who gave the letter, I mean, I had to write about my director as well, right? I had to write a summary of my director. Whoever giving me the letters, I have to, like, give a small summary of about them. So right, and present themselves. So it's not just you're selling, right? Like, it's actually the company that you work for, and how is that company making an impact? How are the people who are giving you the letters, how are they leaders in your field? Your support letter that they give, and obviously we all know, like, you kind of give them something to work with. Like, you just give them pointers, or you just, we draft something for them to work with, so that they know precisely what should be in the letter, and they obviously add and remove stuff, and we all know that, right? For the support letters, I had to write about my director, because my director would not write about any of that. Like, he had like 50,000 citations. He had like, how he played a huge role in PDL1 treatment, which actually led to Nobel Prize of Medicine in 2018. And one of his really close collaborators ended up winning Nobel Prize of Medicine, right? So things like that. I had to mention all of that in the support letter, and so the person looking at your profile knows that, okay, this guy is doing impactful work, great, and this company is also doing all of this impactful things for the country, and the people who actually um, the people that's supporting person X are actually leaders in the field, and they are making an impact, right? So that's how you kind of wrap your profile. And it's just not you, right? Like it's just not you. So that's the key. Think about that, because you can you can work as hard as you want, but if you don't have the connections and you're not asking ask, that I think you have to ask is like do not hesitate to ask, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people would help, right? I'm gonna quickly talk about why you should ask, because some people know more than you do, right? Like, so they know what direction to uh, take when you're lost. So it's better to ask. If you're lost and you're trying to find the way yourself, it's going to take longer. So ask, right? Ask your leaders, ask your colleagues, ask your former colleagues, get their opinion. And if anybody approaches you for collaboration or work, and this is for anybody who's in research, do not hesitate, just do it. Just do it. I mean, yes, it's free work, free research, whatever, doesn't matter. I have collaborated with people I've never worked with in the past, people who have seen my work and just approached me and asked, "Hey, can we do this?" And I'm like, "Okay." I mean, there's no monetary benefits. I'm gonna spend, I don't know, 20 hours a week for the next 6 months, or 10 hours a week for next 6 months, but that's gonna result in a high impact paper with people who you have never worked with, and going to get more traction on you about your research, and it will eventually help your petition. So that's something you need to keep in mind. And moving on to the original contribution, like I said, all of the 10 years of work experience, the 24 manuscripts from including Nature, Cell, and other high impact journals, and a lot of presentations, right? Like I've presented my work in so many places. So talking of presentations, so I want one take home message. Like you guys should take this message home. So that is, if you don't have enough publications and you're not working with people that are publishing, let's say you work in a biotech, and I was talking to a friend recently, and she was telling how it is hard to work in a for-profit company and still publish actively, right? Like, so if you're in that space, you can still, there are things that are not proprietary, like your companies, I mean, most pharma companies still publish. There could be things that are not proprietary and that you are still doing, which actually impacts the field. So you can start talking about it. If you don't know people in the US, like let's say you can't go to a American Association for Cancer Research conference where like 20,000 cancer researchers meet and talk. If you can't go there and do it, I'm pretty sure all of us have connections in India, your former professors, your former university, right? Like they would welcome you to do it, like for the students, right? Like, and you can talk about all of this, and you can talk about your work, you can talk about your journey, and so that adds as presentations, right? Like poster paper, keynote speech, or a guest lecture. Think about it. Think who you can talk to back home that can help you get there, right? Like, so that can help you add as many presentations as possible in your profile, right? And there is no shortcut to any of this, right? I mean, you will have to put your work. I mean, you cannot be an outstanding researcher, or you cannot be you cannot be an alien of extraordinary talent without actually being able to prove it, right? Like, so it'll take time. It'll take at least 2, 3, 4 years, depending on how long you take to do all of this, but it's doable. it's reachable. It's a low-hanging fruit compared to the the theoretical 100-year wait time, 100+ year wait time that people talk about all the time, right? I had no option back in 2019, but 3 years down the road with an actionable set of plans, like I was able to get there, right? So think about this, engaging with your peers in India, peers and outside of India. You may have friends who ended up becoming faculty in a university in France or UK, right? Like, so they are scientists in some company, someplace, right? Like, or doing or in an institute for that matter. And see if you can go, like, present your work to them, right? Like, in nothing proprietary. I mean, we all have things we haven't published, right? Like, we keep our cards closed, and we don't want to talk about all of that to your competitors and whatnot. But you can talk about stuff that are still, that in the knowledge you possess that they don't, and that are out there, right? Like, so think about that. And evidence of judging my work, right? Like, so that was criteria 3. Like I said, I've reviewed 3 manuscripts just last year, even though I've got requests to review manuscripts in the past, or research papers in the past. I did not accept it. I've got requests from my own colleagues, my director, and I really thought you need a PhD to review the manuscripts. That isn't true in engineering at all. And that is partially not true in science, right? Like, some journals have super high standards that includes having PhD, but then if you should have the high standards set for yourself, right? So this is how I approach this problem. I know a lot of people ask this question in the questionnaire. So peer review, how to get peer review. So to get peer reviews, one, you should have published. You will not be approached for peer reviewing without you actually having to publish, right? Like, you should have published at least a few papers, and likely as a first author, right? At least one first author paper. Then people will start seeing your work, and the review editors would think, okay, this guy did this, and this seems a relevant paper, and he may be an expert in this field, and he or she, right? Like, and they would send a request to peer review to you guys. So the first and important thing is you should have published, and you should have had at least one first author paper. And let's say you don't have the first author paper, but you have published with your colleagues. You can then ask your colleagues who actually are first authors and who actually could be review editors, right? And they can help you get peer review options, right? Like, you can start peer reviewing through them. I started last year, I started getting emails, but then all of a sudden, when I wanted to do it, I've learned how to peer review. I did not get any peer review requests. So then I kind of jumped in, and I spoke to one of my colleagues, and he is a review editor, and he was able to pass along at least one article. Then things started showing up, right? Like, I reviewed one manuscript. There were some concerns. The authors addressed those concerns, and it got published. Now my name is there as a reviewer, and then I started getting more peer review requests, which I pretty much accepted everything, irrespective of I'm traveling to Europe for vacation. I would still do it in the nights, right? Like, I would still work on it in the night. So you should set yours like high standards for yourself, because you are reviewing someone else's work, and that's actually going to impact, right? Like, impact the scientific community. So you do not want one of your papers that you have reviewed to be retracted, like, down the road. That's a very bad impression on your work, right? So for peer review, I take the job seriously, and read the paper multiple times, and also search for similar papers and see what they have done and what these folks, the paper that I'm reviewing, have missed, right? So, and at least my goal is anywhere from 10 to 13 papers, like on standard I read at least that many similar papers before I get to the first paper, right? So only because I'm not an expert in the area, right? Like I'm working on it, right? I'm not a PhD. I'm not like actively reading manuscripts every day, right? Like, so to know everything that's happening in the field in July or August of 2023, right? So I need to get myself up to speed, and never hesitate to ask your colleagues for help. Like, let's say you're peer reviewing and you do not know a certain area. I can give you an example. So some of my colleagues are immunologists, and they peer review for cancer immunology journals, and then there is a big chunk of machine learning or bioinformatics piece, and they have no clue of like if it's good or bad, or is there anything needed to be done and stuff. So they would approach me, and I would just read and give them my opinion, and we kind of discuss. And they are still the reviewers. You did not review the paper, so you cannot ideally you cannot get the journal to approve that you are a reviewer. You're actually just helping a colleague there. But one thing you can do is, if you don't have peer reviews, you can have these colleagues vouch for your expertise, right? Like that you have judged other people's work along with them, right? That may or may not be enough depending on your field. I would say talk to your attorneys. I did not have to add it. Like, I thought of doing this, taking this approach where I would my colleagues would write on, like, a support letter stating that I have helped them peer review multiple papers, and I have been the expert in bioinformatics, and did that, blah blah blah, right? So that did not happen. Yes.
Sorry, I'm really sorry to interject, but just wanted to give you a 5-minute time check because
Perfect.
we have a massive number of questions on the chat,
Excellent.
and we would love to like have you engage with the audience as well.
Okay, excellent. So yeah, I'm just gonna quickly go through this. So yeah, so peer review wise, thanks for that, Rashmi. So peer review wise, yeah, I think yeah, you can take that approach as well. So moving on to a salary. So yeah, I was able to prove that I've got I mean, compared to other salaries, my salary is high, and take all of the Glassdoor and other LinkedIn salary and other things as a proof, and promotion that I've received along the way to prove that I've been excelling, right? So and let's see. Oh, and talking about asking, right? Like, why asking is important. So I just wanted to tell you a quick thing that I have learned from one of my colleagues who I asked for help, and that I had no clue of. So I thought, so I suppose this is a senior oncologist in our lab, and who travels the world for make scientific presentations and sharing work, and knows, you name the people in cancer immunology, he knows pretty much all the big guys, right? Like, in several Nobel laureates or his friends, he goes to their house, like they meet for wine, whatnot. So I approached him, a very cool person, very kind person. I approached him. I said, hey, can you put me in touch with someone in Europe or someplace international, so I can get one letter outside of the US, right? Because everyone that's giving me the letter, or in the US, that I work with or not work with, right? And he said, what is this letter for? And I told him my situation, and he was like, okay, I have given this kind of letter to someone at NIH in the past, one of my former colleagues, subordinate or something like that. Then I told him, okay, great. So he has experience doing this. Okay. Then he said, he told me, I think you do not want a letter from anyone international, but you want a letter from someone in the government. And I did not think about it. That cracked it for me. Like, you said, okay, you need someone in the government giving you a letter, support letter, that actually goes to another government agency. So it's an agency to agency letter, and that's gonna put your profile up there, right? So he got me in touch with one of the senior investigators at National Cancer Institute surgery branch. And he I mean, people know his name, right? Like, so he's a big guy, and he was very kind to give me the letter. And, and that is the moment I knew, okay, once I got the letter, I saw the letter, I'm like, okay, I'm going to get my EB1 as soon as I file it, and I have no problem moving forward. That cracked it, right? So think about it. Think if you can find someone who can vouch for your work in the government, and that would seize your case. So with that, I will end this and take questions.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Venkatesh. I would love to quickly go over some of the great pointers you mentioned to summarize and see if it sticks with everyone. So I think the first thing you mentioned was how you branched out from your domain of expertise, which is bioinformatics, into something that was absolutely relevant to your company as well as the wider area of research. So cancer and oncology. So I think the message out here is, if you find that there is a derivative of the work that you can do and get more expertise in that area, which is relevant to the field right now, you should pursue that. The second thing that Venkatesh mentioned was never be afraid to ask, because you could be in a position that you don't have enough publications, but you are somehow in a circle of either your colleagues doing great work or they're doing relevant work. So don't forget to ask and see if there are opportunities where you can collaborate with them, get your foot through the door. Yeah, and then also look out for opportunities from your peers, your connections back home in India, not just in the US, because ultimately at the end of the day, you would want to showcase that your work is not just relevant to the US government, but is also internationally recognized. So I think these were the three important pointers that stuck to me personally, and I wanted to just share that with everyone over here. I would hand it over to Aditi, because she would love to talk about some of the other events that we have, and then we can dive into the Q&A.
Awesome. Before I know people tend to leave as the Q&A start, because it's a very we are getting into the personalized zone where you have questions and Venkatesh is here to answer that. But before everybody drops off, I do want I want to encourage everybody to just put in a kind word in the chat to let Venkatesh know how much we appreciate his time, even though he is literally in the middle of a family emergency, and he still made time for us. Not just do that, but making sure that he's adding value to everybody. This is my fabulous story. These are strategies that you can use. So it takes a lot of time and effort to do that. So if you can take a moment to thank him, that would be wonderful. I also want to talk about the next event that's coming up. What Venkatesh said today is, this EB1 is the shortcut, guys. Don't try to shortcut the shortcut. That's a recipe for disaster. And what you will progressively realize is EB1 is the ultimate career builder ever. So shift your perspective from I want to get my green card to this is the way in which I'm going to push myself in a way that I will never push myself ever, right? Because your survival is on the line. And for you to do that, you need to unlock a lot of opportunities, and you need to do that within a new system that is the United States. So how do you do that? That is what Pankaj Desai, he is a director and an educator in the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign with years of experience. And what he's going to talk about is how to invest in yourself, how to unlock those opportunities for growth as an international student. So if that is relevant to you, I would highly encourage you to come to that event. This is Pankaj's profile. That's going to happen next Saturday, 12 to 1 p.m. I want to share two other resources in case you do not already know. You will understand that this is a collaborative effort. You're not going to go through EB1 by yourself. You need other folks to collaborate. So this is an Excel sheet which has folks' LinkedIn's, their email, everything. If you are interested in finding collaborators in your field or adjacent fields, like Reshmi said, in a derivative field, please go ahead and include your information there. And to earn a sustained support in your EB1 journey, I don't know if you're a part of this Slack community or not, please come in there and join the conversation, introduce yourself, ask your questions. There are no stupid questions. Just ask and get clarity. And if you have some information to share with others, share that freely. With that, I will pass it over to Reshmi so she can kick off the Q&A. And I would I would also encourage Venkatesh, if it is possible, to stay till 1:05 p.m. so we can answer all the questions.
Sure thing. Yeah, I can.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Aditi. So I'm trying to group some of the questions into categories. Maybe I can start with like the first question.
Reshma, you can also ask people to raise their hands, whoever has asked the question,
Yes.
so they can. So everybody who has a question, just raise your hand, and Reshma will go through it. And please be mindful and respectful for others. If it's one question, it's one question. It's not question A, B, C sandwiched in one.
Yep. I think we already have so many hands raised. So I'm going to go through the groups later. Sunil, why don't you kick us off and then we can go through the list.
Yeah, thank you so much, and thanks Venkatesh for being here. So my question is, while writing the peer review articles, can we consider those articles as part of the criteria to satisfy or scholarly articles in journal? With the peer review, we are using it for judging criteria, but can we also use it for scholarly articles?
No, so that is peer review, right? You are reviewing someone else's work, right? I mean, if you're talking about a review article, right, like summarizing the current, let's say, current trends in bioinformatics, right? Like that's a review article where you read and you go through 100 articles and that you talk about the latest and the greatest in one review article. So that, yes, you can add that, but peer reviewing is where you're critiquing someone else's work, right? Like, so if you're a critique of someone else's work, no, that cannot be your scholarly article. That's just that you are a judge, right? There is no a novel idea there. There is nothing that you have added, right? Like, so you're just so you're just being a judge. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, got the answer. Thank you.
Yeah. I think next question. Yeah.
Yeah. Eunice, do you want to go ahead?
Okay. Good evening, everyone. I'm speaking from South Africa, Cape Town, to be precise. Thanks so much for the presentation. I don't know. I'm just wondering how easy it is to apply from outside US. I started with I get engaged with one immigration people, and but I stopped midway because I think the charges were really high for me. I've got the citation, and I got enough citation, like 400 and something, and but I'm just going. The process is my problem, so I'm not sure if there's a way you can just put me through the process, the time and the process, being applying outside South Africa, outside America. Thank you.
I really wish I could answer your question, but my experience is limited for anyone who applied outside of US. But I do know that you can live outside of US and still apply. I just don't know the process, and I do not want to mislead you. Sorry. Aditi or Rashmi, if you guys have any clue, please, chime in.
Eunice, I'll send you the profile of an individual I just talked to the other day. She's an entrepreneur from Nigeria, and she was targeting for her O1, but she had built her profile to such an extent that she just went for EB1 and she got it. So I'm going to put her link in the chat. You are absolutely welcome to reach out to her. And she did it from Nigeria. So yeah, absolutely. You can do it outside.
Thanks so much.
Awesome. Thank you, Eunice. Sai, do you want to go ahead?
Yep. Thank you so much, Venkatesh, and you have been very helpful. So there are two questions in my oral. I do have two-part questions. One is when you say salary, right? So what is like, how do you compare that your salary is higher than everyone? Like do you compare within the company, or do you take an average across US? How do you say that you have a very high salary in your petition?
Sure. I think the attorneys would do that for you. I don't know what they're comparing to, but generally speaking, you can look at Glassdoor, right? You can look at national average. You can look at LinkedIn salary. and your salary, as long as it's above the national average, you know that your salary is higher, right? So I think there is there is a process that the attorneys use as well. So it should be pretty straightforward. But
Okay,
if you want
and
to get a reference, just look in LinkedIn and Glassdoor.
okay, yeah, and one other small quick question. So the letter of recommendations you spoke about, right? I didn't see that anywhere in the criteria. So is it a supporting document or is it one of the criteria for establishing extraordinary ability for a petition?
Right. It's basically people, the leaders in the field that supports your work, right? So that is I mean, that actually supports your case. And so yeah, it is one of the criterias from what I believe. Yes.
And it can be our managers and directors, or it
Right.
should be extraordinary people.
Sure. I've added my director, manager, right? Like people who I've worked with, but it's also good to have people who you haven't worked with. I initially thought of getting 3 letters from people I worked with, 1 from someone who I haven't worked with. But then eventually I got 2 from people who I haven't worked with. And from what I've heard from my attorney, right, this attorney is really good. Like usually the company's attorneys are pretty bad. I don't know if there are any attorneys in this call, I'm sorry, but they are not really responsive. Like, I mean, my EB2 got pushed to like 9 years later. Like literally I was like, I got my EB2 a month before my H1B, I exhausted all of the 6 years H1B, right? Like I did not want to be in that place. But I was pushed there. So the attorney I spoke to said the best judges of your work are your colleagues, right? Like, so at some point, looks like USCIS got sued for rejecting an application for this particular reason. So my attorney back then, she said, no, you don't need anything from outside of your company. You don't need anything except for your colleagues and stuff. But I still did I still did approach others to get the letters. It's good to have that thing, crossed out without having to worry that your petition is going to get accepted or not. So at least get 1 or 2 letters from people who you haven't worked with that can vouch for your work. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Sai. Rizwan, do you want to go ahead? Sorry if I got your name wrong, but Rizwan, we can't hear you if you're speaking.
Maybe we'll come back to it.
Yeah, I know he has posted on the chat, so I'm going to read it for him. Is having an international patent enough for starting the process, or we need paper citations as well? I want to apply from outside the US. What are your thoughts, Venkat?
Yeah, I don't know about international patents, but generally speaking, yes, I know someone who had no papers, no citations, but just two patents, and that was an high impact patent, and that sealed the deal, right? So and again, that person have their patent registered in the US, so that's that. If your patent is like high impact patent and you know that, you probably have a case here. So yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Venkatesh. Hope that answers your question, Rizwan. Let's move on to Shri.
Hey there, hey Venkatesh. Thanks a lot for your time and kind of guiding us. So I have 2 quick questions. One is I have a lot of collaboration papers actually. So do collaboration papers as well as individual papers like first author papers, but my collaboration papers are on the higher side. Do those count as good evidence for my kind of extraordinary effort? I mean, I've been a part of collaboration and worked with them, so they put us on the papers as well.
Yeah.
So do they hold weight? That's one question. And the other question is, how many peer review articles do you need in order to kind of satisfy those 3 criteria? One of the 3 criteria. Yeah,
Sure.
thank you.
Sure. Yeah. Collaboration. Yeah. Any paper counts, right? I don't know how many papers you have. Then there is. I actually did not. I had this point in my slide and I didn't have my slide to look at. So there is no exact number of peer reviews. It's nowhere mentioned, right? No, you do not. There is no minimum number of peer reviews, no minimum number of papers, no minimum number of letters. No, it is how your profile looks as a whole, right? So yeah, people with 2 publications have or 3 publications have received their green card. With less than 100 citations have received their green card and whatnot. But how does your profile look as a whole, right? Like that's what counts. So answering about peer review, like it's a criteria, like being a judge of your peers' work. So in this case, you can show at least a few, right? 2 is better than 1, 3 is better than 2, right? It all comes to that. So if you have like maybe, I mean, I had 5, but I was gonna go with only 3, right? Like I've got chance of peer reviewing just few months, like few weeks before having our petition file. So I would have gone with 3, and still, I think I still would have gotten my application approved with how it was looking. Like, I don't think that's gonna, shoot the USCIS folks away from approving the petition. So,
And does this need the papers need to be like journals, or can it be conference proceedings as well?
it has to be in journals. Conference proceedings would be your presentations, right?
Right. I mean, no, but I mean,
Abstract.
conference proceeding would still be a paper that is published, but under conference proceedings and not as an article, right?
Right.
That's still a full paper. Yeah.
Yeah. So depending, for example, with the AACR, right, like I'm just gonna give you an example. So they just put the abstracts in there. They don't put the whole like paper manuscripts, right? Like, so it can't be repetitive. For example, some of my publications made it to, like, textbooks, right? So you can't just have your publication and then also mention the textbook. It's repetitive, right? So your work is published only once here, and someone takes it and puts it in a textbook. That doesn't quite count. You can actually mention that your work went in a textbook, right? But that's pretty much it. I hope that.
I guess no. I guess my question was like, for peer review articles, whatever peer review you have done, do those need to be journals?
I
Those
see.
papers, or going to the like a journal, or can it be conference proceedings as well? Let's say somebody.
I see. Oh, got it. Okay, yeah. I think it can be. Yeah, it can be conference proceedings as well. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
I don't have personal experience, but I don't see any reason why it shouldn't be. Yeah, because it's
Sounds
still
good.
peer review. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks, Venkatesh. Yeah.
Awesome, Shri. Raj, do you want to go ahead?
Yeah, thanks for your talk. I appreciate it. I had one question where one of the criteria mentioned on the USCIS website is articles published about you. I'm not talking about papers or journal proceedings, that kind of thing, but articles published about yourself. And does that specifically have to mention your name, or can it be about your research? Meaning, you can tie it up with the paper you published and then show that, okay, this is my research and this is the press which is associated with that particular research. Can that be used as an evidence to fulfill that criteria?
Sure. Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah. How you position yourself matters here, right? Like, I can give you an example here. One of my peers published in New England Journal of Medicine. It's a unique case of treating a 72-year-old pancreatic cancer patient. It was all over the news. It's in Forbes, Wall Street Journal. You name it, CBS. It's in national media everywhere, right? And the funny thing is, it was a clinical paper. They have used the work that I have built on the computational side, but they didn't. Obviously, I didn't contribute to treating this patient. So it's only like, oncologist and the immunologist in the paper. So my name was never mentioned. So anyways, but my work actually helped. Somehow helped their paper, right? So I didn't mention it. I thought it's not fair to mention it, but when I actually told about the support letter to my director was kind enough to mention it. He said my work led to the New England Journal of Medicine paper, and he's quoted it. And so I basically took a cue from there, and also mentioned about how that particular work got attention from national media. So So
if
yeah,
you have
can do that.
if you have any supporting evidence from any of your high-level colleagues, then that can be used as an
Right.
evidence.
Yeah. You can mention that.
Okay. All right. Thanks. Thank you.
Oh, Venkata, do you want to go ahead?
Yes. Thank you very much, Venkatesh. Here is the question. So, for example, our research and the current job is not aligned. So, would it impact the case?
Research and the current job. That's a good point. How different is your current job? You're a software engineer, but then you did cancer research before, or how is it? That's a great question. Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly, that's the case. And
Oh, is that the case?
my
Yeah.
profession is a software
Okay.
engineer, and I'm a principal engineer in one of the organization. And
Okay.
I work for like aerospace products.
Yeah.
Okay, but
Yeah.
my research is more into medical image analysis and plus AI kind of thing.
Sure.
So cancer or like that kind of stuff, or skin related stuff and all. But but like if layman sees it, aerospace, and like the other one is a medical.
Sure.
So but I do have a previous experience in the medical device systems and those things. So here it is.
So how you can position your profile as like an expert in multiple areas, right? Like on how you were it's just how you portray the whole thing, right? Like talk to this with an attorney. So since you already have all of the publications, right? Like and you have already built all of that, but then you are in a different field, still contributing to a different area, right? So you can you can state like something like you are an expert in multiple areas and you have contributed in all these areas, because most people just work in one area. Thinking about it, you actually have expertise in multiple areas, right? So talk to an attorney about this, but I think you can position, as long as you can write this up well, I think you have a good profile and a case here.
Okay, thank you very much, and thank you very much for taking time, first of all, like in your busy schedules.
Thank you. Yeah,
thank you.
Thanks, Venkata. Shama, do you want to go ahead?
Hi, Venkatesh. Thank you for giving your expertise in the session today. I had a quick question. I'm currently a fifth-year PhD student actually in Canada, and I already have an internship offer for next year in the US. So I was thinking, what would be your recommendation for me to build the profile? Like, I've done my PhD in Canada, then I'm coming for internship in USA. So what would be the road for me considering going ahead?
Yeah. I think going ahead, you should think about working with as many people as possible, getting as many publications as possible, right? And doing what you trained for, research, right? In the next few years, if you can, and I don't know your expertise, but if you can work on some of the cutting edge, bleeding edge technology, then you're in a better position, right? Like few years down the road. So I think that's what you should think about, on a broader scale.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome. Okay, we're gonna head out for the last question. Since we are almost at time, Advait, do you want to go ahead?
Hey, Venkatesh. I have a patent I worked on, but the rights for the patent do not belong to me. They belong to the company where I worked. So does that still count in my profile?
Sure. Is your name there in the patent?
Yes, it says that, like, it just states that I was an inventor in the patent.
I think that should count. Yeah, if your name is there, you're an inventor. Yes, the patent, it doesn't have to be, the rights need not be in your name, right? Because the company funded you, the company paid you, they did all the heavy lifting, so it should be in the company's name. So that's pretty normal. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to confirm that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Awesome. We have Aditi, do you have any recommendations about? Oh, sorry. There's one more question from owner's iPhone. Do you want to go ahead and ask?
I love how we have just given this person the name owner's iPhone.
It's like I would have said Mr. X or Miss X, but then I realized now that name has also been taken.
That is not X, excuse me, that's Twitter. That's a really bad picture. But yeah, Reshmi, what I was messaging you on the back end. Also, by the way, can we please give a round of applause for Reshmi? She did not know what was coming at her. Like when she just messaged me the day, Aditi, I want to moderate. I'm like, yes, Reshmi, why don't you moderate? And like she's so craftfully managed this entire situation. Thank you so much. Couldn't have asked for a better running buddy. I know Ishan and Sai and Shri, you guys all had your hands up. Why don't we do this? Why don't all of you ask your question and then we'll do a power answer from Venkatesh in the end, where Venkatesh has to answer all those questions together. How about that? All right. If Venkatesh is in pressure, we will put him in more pressure because that's what the immigrant life is all about. More stress. All right, go ahead. Let's do Sai, Ishan, and Shri.
Yeah, I have one question. So, does patent pending from India also help in this petition? Because, like, I have one of my patent pending in India, but I didn't go ahead and file complete the last step. So that will that also help?
Yeah, I mean, just that shouldn't won't help, but we are adding that in the profile, sure. You see, like just that cannot be your only thing, right? Like, so yeah, adding that should help. Yeah.
Yep. Thank you.
Yeah, hi Venkatesh. So my question is that does your current visa status from which you are doing the application for the green card, does it affect your profile? For example, if I apply for the EB1 green card from F1 versus H1B versus from O1.
Yeah, that's a great question. O1 definitely helps your case, right? Because you already proved your case. H1 also helps. I don't think there is anywhere that says you cannot apply from F1, right? So if you have proven your abilities prior, and as a student, let's say as a student you did something so big that during your PhD or masters that then yeah, why not, right? Like you got 1,000 citations in a year, why not? Yeah, there is no reason not to do that. But if you think about the value, O1 is better than H1 is better than F1, right? Like, yeah. So
Okay, so the only reason is that because to get the O1 visa, we have already proved that we are of an extraordinary ability. So
right,
it's like,
right,
the
exactly.
check
Yeah,
is already done.
yeah.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
Hey Venkatesh, yeah, that was a great question, Ishan. Yeah, I also wanted to ask something on that regards that I'm actually currently on an O1 visa, but and I got selected for H1 this year, and my company wants me to switch to H1 so that they don't have to keep proving that I'm doing research because I'm working in a corporate company now. So, should I move to H1 or should I just continue with O1?
I think you already proved your expertise. If you want to switch to H1, I don't believe that should affect your case in any way, right?
Okay.
They are going to see that you already received your O1. Are you going to mention that in your summary? So there is, I don't see, I don't see why not. Yeah.
Okay, and not to discourage the group, but what are some common RFEs that we get on EB1A?
Oh, I don't know. I am unfortunately I didn't receive RFE, so
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay, no problems.
Yeah.
Thanks.
And I'll quickly answer one more question right here. Someone asked, actually it's the owner's iPhone. Thank you, owner's iPhone. So there you go. 70 peer reviews, but I don't have citations. Most of my are solo authors. Great. So I think 70 is good, right? Like you're gonna once you start working on it, I think it's only gonna grow. Wait, citations are 20 only. I don't understand what do they mean by 70 peer review, but and 20 cite. I don't think they have run 70. Oh, 70. Okay, I see. 70 publications, 70 separate manuscripts, peer-reviewed articles, and okay, so wow, that's a big number for sure. Yeah, so I think you still have a case here. The citations for sure play a role, but I've seen people with limited citations apply as well. There's no hard number for minimum number of citations. Anything else? Any other question?
I think that is it. All right, Reshmi, parting thoughts. Venkatesh, parting thoughts.
Right.
I think this was a very engaging talk. I personally learned so much. And I think one key takeaway message would be individual accomplishments like patents, publications, reviewing opportunities, mentions in media, they are all parts of the application, not the entire application. So I think the goal of everyone over here who's targeting an EB1 anywhere in the future is to build that application. And as Aditi mentioned, it's going to be a big career builder for all of us. So let's keep working hard towards that.
Yep. And I just wish when by the time you all apply, EB1 doesn't become the new EB2. So let's take action sooner. Yeah, that'll yeah. So
Truly. But Venkatesh, would you agree that the group that we had today, they are so far ahead in the game than where we were? Like I was
totally
not having these conversations when
right.
I was a PhD student. I was busy doing other things that we will not discuss in this channel. So
Exactly.
I was busy lapping up the newfound freedom that I received when moving to the US. I'm like, yeah, let's do this. And then, you know, lo and behold, that's the reason why we got into this immigration mess. But congratulations to all of you. I always end the call like this because I truly, truly, truly believe it that you're so, so far ahead in the game than any of us were. And I'm so glad that this awareness is increasing and that you are taking steps. And even though it seems like you have a million questions, you don't even know the kind of quality questions that you're asking, which we could just have hoped for when we were like 2 years or 3 years into the US. So you should be very proud of yourself. Thank you again to Venkatesh for giving us your time. This is, I can confidently say, this is the first EB1 chat we've had from a hospital. So that there's always a first. And this is also the first time we've had a PhD from Carnegie Mellon University and a highly accomplished researcher from Microsoft moderating this seminar. So thank you so much, Reshmi, for doing such a stand-up job, and thank you for bringing all these questions. I will send up a wrap-up email, and in that email you will find a link to the recording. You will find a link to the PowerPoint that Venkatesh will send me when he gets time, no pressure. And also a list of resources that were shared in the chat, including the Slack community, next events that are coming up, and also information about our EB1 mentors. And I'm going to share that last link here so you can go ahead. Well, you know what? I spoke too soon because I don't have that link anymore, but I will send that in the email. It's a list of 23, not just one, not just two, 23 EB1 folks who have received their green cards through this competitive category or in the Slack community who are doing personalized review sessions, and you have to book your spot for that. So I will send that information out again. Thank you again, everybody. I will send out this recording and everything, but congratulations to you for making time for yourself today. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Bye.